Heartbroken Waitress gave everything to Beggar. Then he whispers, "I'm a billionaire," at midnight. The clock struck 12. And the world felt like it held its breath. In a flickering diner on the edge of town, Emily stood behind the counter, heart heavy as a lead stone. She watched the rain tap relentlessly against the window, each droplet like the tears she held back. That night was supposed to be just another shift, slinging greasy fries and pouring bitter coffee. But it was about to become something out of a twisted fairy tale, a night when magic and misery collided in the most shocking way. She wiped down the counter one last time. Her eyes landed on him, the beggar. He was tucked away in the dim corner booth, shrouded in shadows, a halo of mystery surrounding him. This stranger, clad in tattered clothing that hung off his skeletal frame, had been a regular fixture for weeks. He never spoke much, just sat in silence, lost in thoughts only he could understand. Emily felt a strange pull towards him, a connection that throbbed just beneath her skin. Why did he always seem so different, so distant? Tonight something was off. The atmosphere felt charged, like a storm brewing just out of sight. Emily approached him, her heart racing. A knot formed in her stomach as she placed a steaming cup of coffee on the table. His piercing blue eyes met hers, and for a moment, the world outside faded away. She could see the depths of sorrow in his gaze, mirrored in her own heart. Then, as if the universe conspired to jolt her from reality, he whispered softly, almost regretfully, "I'm a billionaire." The words hung in the air, a startling declaration echoed by the sudden hush that fell over the diner. Felt like the ground had shifted. Emily's chest tightened, and her breath caught in her throat. What on earth did he mean? A billionaire in this rundown diner? Her mind raced, questions swirling like the storm outside. Just then, a group of loud patrons burst through the door, laughter spilling into the quiet space. Their boisterous chatter broke the moment, and Emily's heart whispered with hope. Could it be true? Before she could utter another question, the beggar's expression darkened. He glanced around as if sensing danger, shadows dancing across his gaunt face. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Emily felt the air turn icy, the weight of his words pressing down like a thick fog. She leaned closer, drawn in by a mix of curiosity and fear. "What do you mean?" she dared to ask, her voice barely a whisper. But before he could answer, his eyes darted to the door again, as if someone was watching him, someone he desperately wanted to hide from. Just as suddenly as it started, he stood up, the old booth creaking under his weight. "I have to go," he murmured, brushing past her as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. A tingle shot through Emily, fear mixed with an aching desire to uncover the truth. Who was this man? She watched him disappear into the night, rain-soaked and shrouded in enigma. What secrets lay behind those haunted eyes? Just when she thought she had seen it all, the night had only just begun to unveil its mysteries. Emily stood frozen, uncertainty crashing over her like waves against the shoreline. The rain outside intensified, mirroring the chaos in her mind. She glanced back at the counter, the clinking of glasses and the raucous laughter of the new customers drifting through the air felt like a cruel joke. $1 billion secret whispered just moments ago, and now the tension that hung in the diner was palpable. What if he was telling the truth? But accuracy didn't matter as much as his sudden disappearance. She felt a pull, a surge of energy compelling her to go after him. Without a second thought, Emily pushed through the front doors, the cold air slicing against her skin. The night wrapped her in a cloak of darkness, each droplet of rain like a whisper of the truth she was desperately seeking. "Hey!" she shouted into the downpour, her voice swallowed by the storm. She searched for him, hope and dread swirling in her chest. She knew she shouldn't take care, he was just a beggar after all. Yet something about his haunted demeanor had rooted itself inside her. A flicker of movement caught her eye just down the street. He was there, stumbling forward, his long limbs frail and unsteady. Emily's heart raced as she sprinted towards him, her feet splashing in puddles that mirrored her chaotic thoughts. "Wait, please," she called, desperation lacing her words. He stopped, turning slowly, and she could see the glimmer of recognition flash across his eyes, like a storm cloud acknowledging the sun. "What do you want?" His voice cracked, barely above a whisper, but it held an urgency that tugged on her heartstrings. "What did you mean back there?" She stepped closer, rain mixing with the tears stubbornly brimming at the corners of her eyes. "Are you really?" Before she could finish, he cut her off, a hint of panic weaving through his tone. "You need to go back, it's not safe here." He glanced around, fear etched on his face. Safe from what? She held her ground, frustration and fear battling inside her. "If you're a billionaire, why are you running from something? Or someone?" He hesitated, his blue eyes stormy like the sky overhead. "My life is complicated. You don't want to get involved." Emily wanted to scream. "I already am involved. You've pulled me into your world with those words." His expression softened for a brief moment, but the tension was palpable, and just like that, his resolve hardened. "Then you need to forget what I said. Forget me." But their moment charged with truths and unspoken fears was shattered when a sleek black car rolled to a stop beside them. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the scene like a spotlight. She could see shadows moving inside the vehicle, menacing figures glaring out. The beggar's eyes widened in alarm, and he grabbed her wrist with a grip that was surprisingly strong for someone so seemingly fragile. "Run." They took off together, heartbeats racing in sync, fear fueling their flight through the storm. As she darted through the narrow streets, adrenaline coursing through her veins, Emily sensed their lives were at that moment impossibly intertwined. "What did you get into?" she panted, glancing back to see if they were being followed. He replied breathlessly, "It's not what I got into. It's what I'm trying to escape." Just then, the ominous sound of a car engine revving echoed behind them. The pursuit had begun. Emily's heart dropped as the vehicle sped after them, the darkness closing in. The electric tension in the air made her pulse race faster. Just as she thought they might have a chance to break free, she heard a chilling command echo from the car window. "Stop right there." What happened next would change everything. Emily's breath came in sharp, frantic gasps as she and the beggar sprinted down the slick pavement. Every echoing footfall was swallowed by the endless roar of the storm. She could feel the tires screeching against the asphalt, the engine growling in pursuit, gaining ground with every second. "Faster," he urged, pulling her forward, his fingers tight around her wrist. She looked back reluctantly, the car now dangerously close, its headlights slicing through the rain like blades. Panic rose in her throat, choking the scream that threatened to break free. "Where do we go?" she shouted, the rain pounding against her face, making it hard to see anything but shadows. The beggar's eyes darted around before locking onto a narrow alley to their left. "There. We have to hide." Without thinking, she veered into the alley, hoping it would offer them some cover. The walls were grimy, cloaked in darkness, and garbage cans lined the sides. They ducked behind a stack of old crates, crouching low, their hearts pounding in unison. The car skidded to a stop, its headlights flooding the alley. Emily pressed against the cold wall, praying they weren't seen. She strained to hear over the pounding rain, barely breathing. A door opened with a creak, and footsteps splashed into the waterlogged street. "Split up," a voice commanded, deep and menacing. "Find them." Emily's heart raced. How could this be happening? One moment she was living her ordinary life in the diner, and now she was crouching in an alley, hunted like prey. "There's no way out," she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "There's always a way," he responded, his tone resolute yet shaky. "Trust me." Suddenly, the crunch of gravel echoed from the entrance of the alley. Shoulders tense, they both turned to see shadowy figures approaching, their faces obscured by night and rain. The beggar's grip on Emily tightened. "Stay quiet," he murmured. They held their breaths, listening as the figures grew closer. Emily could see the glint of metal flashlights. Panic twisted in her stomach. She shifted slightly, and the wood of the crate splintered beneath her, sending shards flying. "Did you hear that?" one of the men said, his voice sharp in the oppressive silence. Before Emily could react, the beggar reached into his coat and pulled out something that glimmered. Her heart soared. A weapon. "There's a back way out," he whispered urgently. "Follow me." With a push, he led her further into the shadows, dodging the beams of light that swept the alley. They veered around the corner to a set of stairs leading down. "Go," he urged, shoving her ahead of him. As they descended, Emily felt her heart hammering in her chest. What had she gotten into? The adrenaline coursing through her pushed her forward, each step a desperate bid for freedom. Finally, they reached the bottom and she turned to face him. "Now what?" He paused, breathing heavily. "There's a safe house nearby. But we have to hurry." No sooner had he spoken than the sound of shouting echoed from above. They hadn't lost them yet. Emily's throat tightened as the urgency flooded back into her veins. "Let us go," she shouted, tugging at his arm. Just then, as they rushed out of the basement entrance, a nearby car screeched to a halt. The door swung open, and a figure climbed out. It was a woman, drenched but fierce, her long hair clinging to her face. Emily's heart sank farther. Was she friend or foe? "Get in," the woman shouted, waving them over wildly. They exchanged uncertain glances, but there was no time to hesitate to trust that glow of hope or fear the unknown. They jumped in, slamming the doors shut just as the first shout of "stop" rang out behind them. As the car sped off into the rain-soaked night, Emily looked back, her heart pounding as all they left behind faded into darkness. The beggar turned to her, eyes fierce. "You have no idea what's coming, but it's not over yet." What did he mean? And what kind of storm were they really running from? The car lurched forward, the tires screaming against the wet pavement, and Emily barely had time to catch her breath. The woman behind the wheel glanced urgently in the rearview mirror, her hands steady on the wheel, drenched hair sticking to her face. "Hold on," she shouted, her voice barely cutting through the storm's roar. Emily's pulse raced as she clung to the seat, the jolt hitting her hard. Panic tightened her chest. "Who are you?" Emily gasped, struggling to comprehend her sudden ally. "A friend," the woman said sharply, her eyes darting between the road and the chaotic surroundings. "Just keep your heads low and stay quiet." The beggar was silent, his face a mask of concentration as he scanned the dark, rain-soaked streets. Emily could feel the tension radiating from him, a stark contrast to the frantic energy of their escape. "Did you see anyone?" he suddenly asked, his voice low but intense. "No," the woman replied, glancing sideways. "But they're not far behind. We need to lose them." Emily's heart sank at the thought of pursuers still hot on their trail. What kind of trouble had she stumbled into? Moments ago, she was wiping down a counter, tending to customers, and now she was part of this twisted chase. "Where are we going?" Emily pressed. "To a safe house," the woman said, her voice firm. "You'll be safe there, but we need to move fast." The words sent a chill down Emily's spine. Safety? How could she trust this stranger? Her mind pulsed with fear and doubt. "How do you know we'll be safe? What if they find us?" "They won't find us," the woman replied, but the certainty in her voice faltered. "If we can just make it to the..." Suddenly, the screech of tires drowned her out. A car emerged from a side street, its headlights blinding as it turned towards them. Emily's breath hitched. The chase was far from over. The woman accelerated, swerving left, then right, but the other car was relentless, tailing them with eerie precision. Emily turned to the beggar. His expression tightened in response to the chaos. "What do we do?" she pleaded. "Stay down," he barked. Through the narrow windshield, Emily noticed the glint of something metallic from the other car. Her pulse quickened in that moment. Her instincts screamed they were not just in a car chase but in a full-blown hunt. "There's a turn up ahead," the woman shouted, gripping the wheel tighter. If I can make it, just hold on. The car sped into a side road, tires splashing through puddles, and the sound of running water mixed with the pounding rain. The pursuers were closer now, right on their tail, the headlights illuminating the wet streets filled with danger. Just as Emily thought they would finally escape, the thundering sound of gunfire pierced the rain-soaked air. A cold grip of fear wrapped around her heart as she ducked instinctively, covering her head. Shattered glass scattered like raindrops as panic erupted inside the car. "Drive faster," the beggar shouted, adrenaline fueling his voice, eyes wide with shock. "I'm trying," the woman yelled back, determination blending with fear. Emily glanced back, seeing their attacker's car veering dangerously close. Everything that had felt so far away, her routine life, her dreams, now vanished in the storm of sirens and flying shards of glass. This was survival. The woman stepped on the gas harder, and they careened around another corner. Emily's head was spinning. What would happen next? But before she could even form the thought, a loud explosion shook the vehicle, the force knocking her back against her seat. They hurtled forward, the world outside becoming a blur of noise and light. Then silence fell, a heavy, oppressive silence. In that moment, with everything hanging in the balance, the beggar leaned closer, lips close to Emily's ear. "You need to know something about the people chasing us." Her heart raced, not knowing whether to be terrified or intrigued. What could he possibly say that would change everything? "Just promise not to freak out," he whispered, as the shadows of their pursuers loomed closer. What revelation was waiting to explode in the tension-filled atmosphere? Emily's mind raced, trying to grasp the weight of his words. Did she hear him right? A billionaire? The chaos outside felt too vast, too overwhelming, for such an absurd revelation. Her instincts roared this was no time for confessions. The beggar's eyes searched hers, a flicker of desperation cutting through the storm of their situation. "I know it sounds crazy," he continued, his voice low and steady amid the rising panic. "But I need you to trust me. They want what I have, what I know." "Great timing for this," she snapped, rage bubbling up as fear twisted in her gut. "Can't we focus on surviving?" "Listen." The woman slammed the brakes, sending the car into a sharp turn down an alley, dodging another barrage of bullets that zipped through the air like angry hornets. "We're being hunted for more than just revenge. There are secrets at play, and they go deeper than you think." Emily could barely follow the frantic conversation, her heart thundering in her chest. "What's going on? Who are they?" The beggar swallowed hard, his gaze shifting towards the rearview mirror, a mix of panic and something darker in his eyes. "I was involved in something terrible, something that made powerful people very angry." "Powerful people?" Emily echoed, dread pooling in her gut. "What have you done?" "Nothing intentional." He hesitated, weighing his words as if he could measure their impact. "I was trying to expose corruption. All I care about is staying alive." Emily interrupted, panic constricting her throat. Outside, the distant wail of sirens seemed to scream their fate, echoing in her mind. "Then trust me," the beggar implored, urgency sharp in his voice. "The people chasing us won't stop. They think I have something that can ruin them, destroy their power, their empire. If we don't get to safety, they'll use whatever means necessary to get what they want." The woman squinted through the rain, her grip unwavering. "We have to keep moving. Just a little further." Emily's heart sank. "Where's further? Do we even have a plan?" The beggar leaned closer again, his breath warm against her ear. "There's a warehouse, an old hideout. The secret, they won't expect us to go there. But it's a gamble." "A gamble?" Emily's voice trembled. "We're already in a life-threatening situation. How could it get any worse?" Gunfire exploded again, punctuating her question with dreadful clarity. The woman swerved, narrowly avoiding a barricade erected in the alleyway, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. "Just trust me," he yelled. "I promise we'll be safe. We can plan our next move from there." Emily caught a glimpse of determination on the woman's face as they careened down another street, desperation morphing into resolve. "I'll drive us to the warehouse." Before she could finish, A chilling realization struck Emily. They were running headlong towards a trap. No, we can't. What if they're already there? There's no option left. The woman insisted, but doubt twisted inside Emily, feeding a growing sense of dread. Then, just ahead, the faint outline of the warehouse loomed against the rain, cloaked in darkness. But a flicker of light gave it away, a flicker that felt like a beacon, or perhaps a warning. Stop the car, she shouted, instinct overpowering her mind. We can't go in there. But it was too late. The car screeched to a halt, adrenaline coursing through her veins as thunder rumbled ominously above. The woman turned to her, eyes wide. Why not? They're waiting. The beggar nodded slowly, the reality crashing down on him too. They had to make a choice. Confront the inevitable or flee into the unknown. In that moment, Emily felt the weight of decisions hanging in the air, thick as the storm above. Every heartbeat echoed a warning. Now or never, the woman whispered, spotting shadows merging with the night. What awaited them could be death or salvation. But at the edge of danger, fate had its own plans. Let us get out, Emily cried, but as they opened the doors, a blinding light engulfed them, and the shadows rushed forward. Run. What lay ahead was a collision with fate, and she had no idea how it would change everything. Would they find the truth or be swallowed in darkness? And what did the shadows hide? The world swirled around Emily as she stumbled into the piercing light. The shadows darted forward, faces etched with menace and determination. Panic surged through her limbs, urging her to flee, yet her feet felt like lead. Run! The beggar shouted again, pulling her along as they vaulted out of the car, the headlights casting an eerie glow. The rain lashed at her skin, stinging like 1,000 needles on her exposed arms. She could hear the distant thud of footsteps approaching, echoing ominously in the alley. The warehouse loomed ominously ahead, its once sturdy walls now crumbling and covered in layers of grime. A chain-link fence encircled it like a cage, but the door, a rusted steel slab, stood slightly ajar. In there, the woman shouted, urgency lacing her words. Heart pounding, Emily sprinted towards the entrance, instinct screaming that they had to get inside. The beggar was right behind her, his breath ragged, each step a race against fate. They ducked into the warehouse, and the darkness consumed them, swallowing the sounds of the storm. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of oil and dust. Shadows darted across beams of moonlight peeking through broken windows, creating a sense of both safety and foreboding. Emily pressed her back against a wall, trying to steady her breath. Are we safe? She whispered, looking at the woman, who was scanning the room like a hawk. For now, the woman said, though her eyes flicked to the door, alert to every sound outside. But we need to move. They won't take long to find us. Why? Emily asked, her fear boiling into frustration. What do they want with you? What do you know? The truth, the beggar said, his face pale in the dim light. I stumbled upon something. They'd do anything to keep it hidden. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Emily understood. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about a reckoning, a fight against something she had never asked to be part of. What do you have? She pressed, urgency replacing her panic. A file. Documents that can take down the people behind the chaos out there. He gestured toward the storm-riddled night outside. It's not just me they want, it's the information. Information that could destroy a billionaire's empire, the woman murmured, her voice a low growl as she paced. Is bigger than all of us. A sudden crash echoed from the entrance, splintering their fragile sanctuary. Emily's heart leaped into her throat as the shadows outside grew bolder, advancing quickly on their location. They're here, she shouted, recognizing the dangerous glint of a flashlight cutting through the dark. No time, the woman said, looking for an escape. Follow me. They raced deeper into the warehouse, weaving around boxes and debris strewn across the floor. Each footstep echoed, merging with the pounding of her heart. The tension was palpable, a living thing wrapping around them. Turning a corner, they stumbled into a small office, papers scattered like fallen leaves in the wind. This way, the woman urged, her eyes scanning for anything that could be used as a weapon or shield. But at that moment, a loud bang shot through the air, tremors jolting the walls around them. Emily's breath hitched as she spun to see the door they had just come through splinter, chaos spilling in with it. Figures entered, faces obscured but intentions clear. "Emily, we have to," but the rest of her words drowned in the chaos, for a hand grabbed her shoulder, pulling her back. "Don't be afraid," the beggar whispered urgently as darkness consumed the room again. What new horror awaited them? Would the truth tear them apart? Or could this tangled mess of secrets bring them together as allies in the storm? To survive the night, they would have to unravel a conspiracy more twisted than any of them could imagine. And time was running out. As the shadows closed in, Emily felt the world around her collapse into chaos. The hand gripping her shoulder tightened, and she turned her head to see the beggaress' wild eyes, filled with urgency and fear. The office was now a whirlpool of sound, the echoes of threats blending with the relentless rain pounding against the warehouse's tin roof. "Where?" Emily gasped, her voice barely rising above the clamor. "Look for something, anything," he urged, his gaze darting to the cluttered desk. "If they catch us, we won't get a second chance." Heart racing, Emily's fingers scrambled over loose papers and tarnished tools. What could possibly protect them from the menacing figures threatening to breach their sanctuary? Every second felt like an eternity. She could feel the sweat trickling down her back, mingling with the wet fabric of her clothes, while the beggar rifled through a nearby cabinet. The woman remained watchful at the door, a tense sentinel poised for the inevitable onslaught. Emily snatched up a rusted wrench from the floor, its weight oddly comforting in her palm. Then, a loud crash came from the far side of the room. One of the figures had breached the office door. "Get behind me," Emily shouted, raising the wrench defensively. The door swung open with a violent crack, revealing a silhouette swathed in darkness. A cold flash of light illuminated a menacing grin. In a blur, the figure lunged forward, and Emily's instincts kicked in. She swung the wrench, barely grazing the intruder, who stumbled back but swiftly regained his footing. "Get out," the woman yelled, pushing the beggar toward a hidden exit in the back wall. "Emily, go!" A sharp pain flared in her side as a heavy body collided with hers, knocking her off balance. The world spun, and she hit the floor hard, the wrench slipping from her grip. Dazed, she wrestled beneath the weight of the attacker, struggling to free herself. "Emily!" The beggar's voice pierced through her fog, desperation filling every syllable. With sheer force, she shoved the figure off, rolling away just in time to witness the woman hurl herself at the attacker, aiming for a pocket of vulnerability. They collided in a tangle of arms and legs, and all Emily could do was watch, paralyzed by fear. A glimmer of silver snaked through the air as the beggar retrieved a broken bottle from the debris. "Step away," he shouted, his eyes gleaming with resolve. The attacker hesitated, the scene frozen in time. Emily pushed herself up, lungs burning, eyes racing between the two. Would they be able to exploit the moment of surprise? A moment later, the battle erupted again. The woman twisted away from the assailant, but the figure recovered quickly, drawing a weapon of his own. Emily's heart plummeted as she realized how outmatched they were. The file they needed, the truth that could shatter empires, was slipping through their fingers like sand. "Where is it?" the attacker yelled, glancing back toward the door. Without thinking, Emily dove past the swirling melee, towards the desk. She spotted a folder swept beneath the scattering of crumpled papers. Her fingers grasped it just as a loud shout erupted from behind. "Stop!" The sound reverberated through the warehouse like thunder. It wasn't a voice she recognized, but it halted everyone momentarily. In that heartbeat, she lifted the folder into the dim light shimmering above, revealing its secrets. "Let her go. You want this," she shouted, keeping her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. All eyes turned to her, and tangled alliances inched toward clarity as they weighed their next move. Would they strike to seize the moment, or would the chaos claim them all? Every pulse of her heart felt like a countdown, each tick echoing the shifting dynamics raging around them. She could almost hear the whispers of fate swirling in the air as the beggar and the woman locked eyes across the room. The truth was poised to surface, but would they make it out alive to share it? Suddenly, a shadow flickered in the doorway. A new presence had entered the fray, disrupting the fragile balance. Emily's stomach twisted. Who or what was it this time? The storm outside raged on, mirroring the tempest brewing within. And above it all, the stakes were higher than ever. Would they unravel the conspiracy? Or would the truth drown in the tides of violence? The figure that emerged from the shadows was like a nightmare taking form. Clad in heavy leather, his presence commanded the room with an air of undeniable authority. He stepped into the flickering light, revealing a scar running jagged down his cheek, a brutal reminder of a life spent on the edge. Emily's breath caught. She knew this man, the infamous enforcer of a powerful crime syndicate. Panic surged through her veins. This wasn't just an adversary, they had stumbled into a tiger's den. Where's the file? He sneered, his voice dripping with malice as he took a few deliberate steps forward. The tension thickened, wrapping around them like a vice. The woman, still grappling with the earlier attacker, glanced up. Her eyes flared with realization. "Here," she shouted. "We'll never give it to you." Emily's heart raced. The folder felt like molten lead in her hands, proof of corruption, but a target on her back. She couldn't falter. "Stay back," she yelled, attempting to project courage she didn't feel. But the enforcer merely laughed, a low, chilling sound. "You think you can protect it? You're nothing but pawns in a much larger game." His words rattled through the air, a reminder of their precarious situation. The noise from outside began to fade, replaced by the heavy, suffocating silence of impending doom. The beggar clutched the broken bottle tighter, his knuckles pale against the glass. "On your knees," the enforcer ordered, voice filled with contempt. "No," Emily shouted, defiance blooming within her. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, the woman freed herself from her attacker, pushing him aside as if he weighed no more than a feather. "We've come too far," she declared, stepping beside Emily, shoulders squared, ready to face the storm. Their united front seemed to momentarily shake the enforcer's confidence. He stepped back, eyeing them with a mix of disdain and curiosity. "You think you can just walk away with that? You don't even know the risks." Emily's mind raced. The truth they held was barely worth its weight in paper if they couldn't make it out alive. Suddenly, a sudden glint caught her eye. Another figure had slid silently through the back exit. The beggar's eyes widened, full of alarm. "Look out!" he screamed, but it was too late. The door burst open again, unleashing another adversary, his dark clothing swamped in the storm outside. Emily's guts twisted. Another player in this twisted game. She glanced at the file, hoping it would somehow fend off the gathering storm, but doubt clawed at her heart. Lightning flashed, illuminating the office and revealing a chaotic tableau. 3 factions now stood poised to fight. "Let us finish this," the new arrival snarled, grinning with malicious glee, his focus solely on Emily and her desperate grip on the folder. With the odds stacked against them and nowhere to run, Emily felt the cold grip of fear close around her throat. The stakes had never been higher, and yet the truth was within their grasp. Could it become their salvation, or would it be the very thing that destroyed them? An unrelenting shout burst forth from the enforcer, snapping her back to the present. The room teetered on the brink of an explosion, and all she could do was hold tightly to the folder, a lifeline amidst the chaos. "Give it to me," he demanded, each word clawing deeper into her resolve. And in that dire moment, Emily realized she had to choose. Keep the truth or fight to protect it, but at what cost? Outside, the thunder crackled, drowning out her thoughts. She could feel the weight of inevitability pressing down on her. Was there a way to escape it all? Or was this the night everything would change forever? The air crackled with suspense, as their fates hung in the balance, and Emily knew. If she faltered now, it could cost them everything. What would happen next? The room erupted into chaos, their lives hanging by a thread. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as the enforcer took another menacing step forward, his narrowed eyes fixated on the folder she clutched. The demands swirled around her, a violent storm threatening to engulf them. "Get back!" The woman at Emily's side shouted, her voice defiant, every ounce of fear burning behind it. It was a valiant attempt to buy precious moments, but the enforcer's laughter sliced through the tension like a knife. He was in control, and they were cornered. The newly arrived adversary smirked, his dark clothing clinging to him like shadows, eyes flickering over the women's desperation. "Let us see just how much you're willing to suffer to keep that little secret." Before anyone could react, the enforcer lunged. Emily's instinct kicked in. She sidestepped swiftly, adrenaline sparking through her veins. This wasn't how it ended. She had to protect the truth. "Stop!" she yelled, swinging the folder up defensively. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. The enforcer's hand shot out, grabbing the folder. Emily felt the raw panic claw at her throat, a fight-or-flight surge electrifying her limbs. "No, you can't." The new arrival lunged as well, intent on getting the folder for himself too. A whirlwind of chaotic hands grasped and pulled, laughter twisted into roars of violence. The beggar, still cradling his shattered glass weapon, was frozen in shock, realizing the stakes of the moment. "Help us!" the woman cried, her eyes flickering with urgency towards the beggar. "Get us out of here." Just as the enforcer tightened his grip, a cheer pierced the air outside. The cacophony of a nearby street festival mixed with the furious struggle. The enforcer hesitated, his eyes darting towards the sound, confusion breaking his focus. Seizing the moment, Emily yanked the folder away and bolted towards the door. "Come on." She was half out of the office, feet scrambling on the rain-slicked floor, when a strong hand snagged her wrist. It was the woman. "We have to go together." But behind them, the enforcer recovered quickly, snarling, "You think you can escape with that?" They exchanged frantic glances. The only way out was through the front. The crowd outside was a possibility, a glimmer of hope to vanish into anonymity. Another flash of lightning illuminated the room, illuminating the gritted teeth of the enforcer and the dark sullen grin of the other man. It exploded in Emily's mind. A plan. "Follow me," Emily yelled, wrenching herself free. She hit the door hard, bursting through and stumbling into dark rain. The noise of the festival was a living thing, pulsing around them. But as she pushed forward, that hope twisted into fear. The enforcer and the new arrival surged behind her, shadows weaving through the throng of oblivious partygoers. "Don't look back," the woman shouted, a determined fire igniting in her eyes. Together, they pushed through the thinning crowd, hearts racing like wild drums. Every breath felt like a race against being caught. And then, from the swirl of color and laughter, a voice called out, "Stop! You can't just run from them." It was the beggar. Had he followed? Or was this an empty plea? Emily's heart sank. Time stood still up ahead. A flicker of red and blue lights pierced the festivity, signaling a world of safety or even more danger. Spinning around, Emily held her breath, bracing herself for the path ahead, looming with uncertainty. Would they run towards safety or into the jaws of the beast? At that moment, in the crushing din of chaos, Emily knew everything was about to change again. But how? Would that choice lead to freedom or a deeper betrayal? With their hearts hammering in their chests, Emily and the woman pushed through the festival crowd, the kaleidoscope of lights swirling around them like a dizzying dance. Emily's thoughts blurred. The shadows seemed to taunt her from behind, their threats lingering like a storm cloud always within view. Just as she felt hope slip through her fingers, something unexpected happened. The air buzzed with laughter, fireworks exploding above them like bursts of joy, masking the chaos of their escape. But Emily's mind was sharp. She couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. The beggar's voice broke through, desperation bleeding in. "I have to help. They're not far behind." Emily stopped, scanning the crowd. His gaunt face was etched with determination even as fear shone in his piercing blue eyes. "You need to get away. Now. Help us," the woman shouted, her voice struggling against the lively sounds around them. "They're right behind us." The crowd was thick, yet every moment felt like a countdown. Emily felt the weight of the folder pressing into her side. It was more than just paper. It was a promise of change, potential salvation in a world corrupted by greed. But could they keep it out of the wrong hands? And then she saw him, one of their pursuers, suddenly emerging from the mass like a shadow breaking free from twilight. The adrenaline surged through her, and instincts kicked in once more. "There!" Emily yelled, pointing at the dark figure weaving through the crowd. "We can't let him get to us. Stay close." They sprinted towards the edge of the festival, bursting into the relative safety of a narrow alleyway. Emily felt the breath of relief in the air, mingled with the sting of rain and adrenaline. But the reality of being cornered settled in their bones. "Where do we go?" the woman gasped, taking steadying breaths. "We can't just hide here." The beggar's voice was urgent, calm but cutting through the chaos. "You have to trust me. There's a place not far from here, a real safe house." Emily squeezed the folder tightly, the truth sheltered within. Something in the way the beggar spoke made her pause. She wanted to believe him. "Okay, show us the way." They darted through the alley with all their might, every footstep speeding them toward a chance at freedom. The city's sounds faded into a dull roar, rain pitter-pattered on the pavement, distant laughter exploding like fireworks celebrating moments lost to fear. As they turned a corner, the beggar looked back. "They're still coming." He turned to them, a weight resting heavy in his eyes. "If we don't get there soon, if they find us," his voice trailed off into the shadows. "Then we won't let them." The woman's strength surged through her words, encouraging them all. "No one is taking that file. No one." They rounded another corner, and there it was, a dilapidated building with crooked windows, standing like a sentinel amidst the storm. The beggar rushed ahead, pushing through the door, and they followed, hearts racing with what lay behind. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. Emily glanced at the beggar, a mix of fear and hope flickering in his eyes. "This is it. We can plan our next move from here." But as the door slammed shut, sealing out the chaos, darkness swept over them like a thick fog. Emily's insides twisted. She had come so far, but the danger felt fresh, keen. "Wait," the woman's voice cut through the silence. "We can't trust this place. We need to post guards or something. There might be more." "No," Emily shouted, her heart's pulsation matching their fear. "We need to make a stand. We're the only ones who know what's happening. The truth rests in our hands." The beggar nodded, his eyes gleaming with newfound resolve. "I promise you," he said softly, "this is the moment we can turn it all around. It's time to show the world the truth." The moments that followed felt timeless. They all gathered around a dusty table, spreading out the file, the light flickering nervously above. The weight of their choices pressed down, their destinies tied together. They would face what lay ahead not as strangers, but as comrades in a fight against the darkness. What emerged in the quiet of that room was not just a plan. It was hope blooming against all odds. The shadows outside hovered, but they were no longer alone. Together, they would unravel the web of deceit that reached far beyond their grasp. They would become the storm, the force that would challenge the empire of lies. As energy surged through Emily like wildfire, a spark of bravery lit within. "Let us do this," she declared, determination resonating in her voice. "For every person the shadows have taken." "Yes," echoed the woman and the beggar in unison, their spirits igniting the air with urgency. The storm would not defeat them. It would fuel their fight for truth and justice. They were ready to push back against the tide, ready to forge their own fate. And at that moment, beneath the crumbling roof and the buzzing light, as they set their course toward destiny, they knew they may not change the whole world in one night, but they could change theirs. Time slipped away like the rain outside, but whatever may come, they were ready to face it. It was time to take back their lives, and yesterday's shadows would meet tomorrow's truth. You need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to keep the algorithm pumping stories like this. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about their fate. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who must see this conclusion. Your support is everything to the channel. And we can't do this without you.